Hey everyone, it's me, John Lorden again, here with another episode of Itchy Mysteries for you. Thank you so much for joining me here today. You know, a lot of times on this show I focus on true crime documentaries, but every now and then I like to push the envelope a little bit and look into fringe, what I consider fringe stories. And that is what we're looking into today. Today I am reviewing The Mothman of Point Pleasant. Now this is a documentary that came out, I believe just in June of 2017, so fairly recently on digital platforms. I was able to rent it on Amazon. If you rent the standard definition version, it was only $1.99, which I thought was a good bargain. Was it? Well, we're going to have to talk about that here a little bit. Let me start with the synopsis so you have a bit of an overview about what this documentary is about. Learn the terrifying true story about 13 months that changed history. In November of 1966, a car full of kids encountered a creature unlike anything they'd ever seen before. In the weeks and months to follow, the monster, known as the Mothman, was sighted again and again on country roads and around the state of West Virginia. Sounds pretty intriguing, right? I gotta say, I was also intrigued because I looked at some of the reviews for it that were on Amazon, and it was doing, well, it's strange. I saw a lot of reviews where they were super, super positive, and then I saw a lot of reviews where they were super, super negative. And the negative reviews made me think that they were just people that don't appreciate documentaries, that they would rather watch The Mothman Prophecies, the 2002 film that features Richard Gere. But after watching it for myself, what side of that fence do I fall on? Let's talk about this film a little bit. The first 10 minutes really hit me in terms of cinematography. The cinematography is really, really cool. You guys know one of the things that I look forward to in watching these documentaries is being transported to another place, sometimes at another time, but particularly another place. And the footage that they got of the West Virginia area was really, really cool to see. I really appreciated it, but unfortunately it only lasted like a good 10 minutes. Like literally the first 10 minutes of this movie loaded with great shots. After that, it transitions to a lot of what seems like possibly stock footage or stock images mixed with 3D models. And at first I thought it was an interesting storytelling mechanic when they first worked in the 3D models. But the 3D models look like they've been painted on canvas in a strange way, or they've been oil painted. There's this really cool overlay to the skin that makes it look like they're paintings coming to life. And for the first segment where that happens in particular, I really enjoyed it. I really thought that was a cool a way to visualize this story that we're hearing. By the end of the film, which is only, I think, 1 hour and 7 minutes long, I didn't feel like that anymore. It is pretty heavily overused. Some of the animations are not as good as others. The first one was particularly well done, and then some of the later ones, you feel like you're watching a video game from, you know, possibly 6 or 7 years ago. So it's unfortunate because what I think could have been a really strong storytelling mechanic just gets completely overused, and by the end of the film, you're kind of like, well, was it really that great in the first place? Luckily, I remember my reaction to the first one, and I do think that the first story in particular works really well. So once again, we're talking about the first maybe 15 to 20 minutes of this film now that is structured pretty well. But there is kind of a problem with going after this story the way that this director, his name is Seth Breedlove, does. He is seeking the opinions of people that have some type of experience with this Mothman phenomena. He is incorporating some historical folklore, is kind of what I can best describe it as. But at no point during this documentary are you actually presented with someone that's being interviewed where you feel like, oh, this person's actually an expert. This person is being critical of this situation. This person is not just wrapped up in, you know, hey, my family had this experience and I'm going to tell this same story for the rest of my life about it. This person is actually trying to be objective about this experience. You never get that feeling at any point in this documentary. just let me make it clear. This is not an objective documentary about the Mothman. There is literally one mention of people that live in the town that have their doubts about this phenomenon, and that's it. They just talk about, yeah, there's some people that don't really believe in this. That's it. No interviews from them, none of their input, nothing like that. So what you get here is a film that is largely, it feels like it's biased because it feels like it's only seeking information that it can use to promote a scary storytelling session, which you guys know, there's plenty of that on YouTube. That is definitely not what I do, and it's not what I look for in things that I'm typically reviewing. And it's really unfortunate because I think that there is a legitimate way to look at this case to get both sides of the conversation and bring them together and make a much more interesting piece than what you have here. What you have here at best is an example of folklore. You have an example where you can see how a story has moved through generations and where it's landed currently, all the way to a guy that's basically a super fan of this story who runs a museum, and he might be the closest thing that you get to what I would consider an expert opinion here. But largely the information is just based on personal people's stories. Just, you know, hey, this happened to my father, this happened to me, recordings of people talking about what happened to them, but there is nothing presented in terms of evidence. You have several interactions with this Mothman. You have people intentionally going out to try to find this Mothman. Apparently no one's thinking to take a camera. They talk about how everyone wants to take a gun and everyone wants to shoot the Mothman, but no one thought, hey, maybe we should get a camera out there, try to take a picture, at least as this documentary is presented. I'm not talking about all the information that encompasses the Mothman phenomena. I'm just talking about what they showed in this documentary. So no examples of, there is one mention of tracks at some point, but no examples of actually showing the tracks, no examples of anything that has been found that could be at least somewhat scientifically analyzed around this phenomenon. Nothing like that. This is folklore about the Mothman. For fans of the Mothman story, I think they're going to be fine with this. If you already believe in that occurrence, you're going to find a bunch of information to support that belief. What you're not going to find is an open discussion that is showing multiple views of this belief and the strong points or weak points of the story, which is a little unfortunate. And admittedly, not everyone does brain scratch. Not everyone is necessarily looking for the truth. And in the way that this thing's produced, I knew in the first minutes I was probably in for that type of film because the music running throughout the whole thing is basically creepy monster music. The narrator sounds like he's got like a voice affliction that is making him say everything really dark and deep. And it just seems like they're trying to eke out every ounce of spookiness, I guess is the best way to say it, that they can while you're going through this whole hour and 7 minutes. And even in that way, I could be okay with that, but once we get past 15 minutes and you recognize the pattern that you're being put into of, oh, here's another story with no evidence to back it up, oh, here's another story with no evidence to back it up, it kind of wears on you. And considering that this documentary is only an hour and 7 minutes, seriously, it felt to me like it was 2.5 hours long. It was really slow and it really drags after those first 15 or 20 minutes. You know, can I really recommend it to you guys? I can tell you the reviews that I'm seeing online are somewhere between a 6 to a 7 out of 10. But personally, I think it's a very small audience that's going to be able to appreciate this film. Like I said, you basically have to be a fan of the Mothman just in itself. You can't be looking for too many answers to questions. None of your questions are going to get answered. It's really just a retelling of other people's story. It's funny because if you do look at it from just a folklore perspective, it is kind of the evolution of these stories carrying forward to the next generation, just being retold over and over and over again. And in one way, that's kind of Americana. That's kind of neat to see, but unfortunately, I don't think the director was very aware that he was doing that and didn't really highlight even that aspect of it. That's just kind of a deeper level, I think, that some people will be able to see in this if you watch it for yourself and you're trying to find some type of entertaining or redeeming factor in it. But for me personally, guys, I might have to give this one a 3. I know, it's one of my lowest scores. And I really tried. I really wanted to enjoy this. I wanted it to have some information that I haven't heard before, which in one way it does, but when the information is just stories that are being told years and years later with no real facts or evidence to support those stories, it gets tough. And yes, admittedly, there are many people that have these stories about the Mothman. His height changes, the color changes a little bit, the wing type changes. Quite honestly, the way they described him in this film, I don't even know why they call him a Mothman, because everyone thought it was a giant bird, and moths don't have feathers on their wings. So let's just say it left me with more questions than answers, and not in a good way. I'm just kind of uninterested by the whole thing now after seeing it presented in this format. Perhaps I will get that interest reignited at some point and look into it for myself, because I do think there's more to this story than unfortunately was presented in this documentary. But if you are looking for spooky storytelling and you want to hear these types of stories about the Mothman, maybe this would be the film for you. I think for most of us brain scratchers out here, it's probably not, and that's why I'm giving it a 3. Just very limited audience on this one. All right, everyone, tell me what you think about it in the comments below. Are you going to watch it? Have you seen it already? Am I crazy? Did I miss the big amazing thing that happened in it? Or am I on the nose? Is it something that most people would want to pass up? That's what the comments are for. Let's talk about it. Thank you so much for joining me here on Itchy Mysteries. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you here tomorrow, right back on the Lord and Arts channel.